All right, here we go. Shayna Jack, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for doing this. A long time coming. I know that I was bugging you all the way through your your drama and your episode that
Mm,
you're dealing with, and
Yeah.
you've come out the back end of it now, and we're able to talk. So I appreciate you doing
Yeah.
this.
No, of course. Yeah, definitely hard to have those conversations when I had a lot of rules back then. So now it's all yours. Whatever you want to know, I'm here.
Well, listen, I just watched the Australian story, and I know that
Mhm.
was recorded probably a while back. But if anyone is able to watch that, and hopefully I can put that in the show notes here because I think it's just a valuable. It was really well done, by the way. It kind of cut off before some of the stuff came to light as well. The new stuff, but in terms of like the timeline, I just felt like
Mhm.
they did a really good job with that.
Yeah.
Um, so that's awesome. So I'll try and put that in the show notes if people want to watch that. But let me just start by saying there's no doubt in my mind at all that you didn't that you knowingly took a banned substance. Like there's no doubt in my mind. You know what I mean? Like that's not even a question for me. So I just wanted you to know that up front.
Thank you. No, I think that's definitely been a lot of the messaging I've received, I guess partway through my process when I was quite open and honest with people about what I was going through and
Mm,
how the actual process works. And once I started educating people on, just how scary these things can be and actually the depth of what they actually look for in athletes and how much they can actually find an athlete and then accuse you of being a drug cheat. I think people started to actually understand that that justice system is quite flawed and actually needs to be updated, or at least have some sort of better education for athletes and actually the public, because I don't think the public had actually ever been through watching something like that. So I was quite overwhelmed with how much support I actually started receiving throughout the process and more towards the end of the process. So, anyone who backed me and actually stood by me was definitely well appreciated, because it was
mm,
a very difficult situation for myself and my family and everyone who is, directly involved. So we're just really glad that I was able to get through that process and, clear my name and actually have that, publicized in a way of I actually fought for my reputation and didn't let anybody tear that down or take that away from me, because that was
mm.
probably my biggest thing with that. I didn't appreciate
Yeah.
someone questioning my character.
Mm. I think that's the thing I took the most from watching you and going through that process is that this happened to the wrong person. Not in the sense that you didn't,
Yeah.
in the sense that they picked on the wrong girl here. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
you fought
if
for
they
yourself,
yeah, if
like
they
you
were thinking
stood
it was
up
going
and
to
fought.
be one, yeah, if they thought it was going to be, someone who just backed down and threw their
Yeah.
hands in the air and couldn't
Yeah.
be bothered going through the process, they
Mm,
definitely picked the
mm,
wrong person.
mm,
And look, the process taught me a lot about myself and a lot about the strength that I have for myself, and I've definitely learned from that and actually taken that on board to now be a spokesperson for myself and other athletes, and allow people to come to me if they have any questions about situations they might be dealing with and challenges they're facing, because I'm more than happy to speak up and help them actually have the courage to speak up.
Most people, when they go through an athletic career, they go through normal ups and downs, but when they look back on their career, it's basically just a series of fast swims, slow swims, good
Yeah.
swims, bad swims, things
Yeah.
like that. But you've got this chunk of time in your career where it was just
Oh,
taken from you. How does that make you feel that that's part of your story and part of your identity?
look, I actually had, I don't know where this question came up once, but my family and I actually had this conversation one day about whether or not, if I could take it back, would I actually
Mm,
completely strip it away? And I actually thought to myself, you know what, I wouldn't change it.
mm,
The situation itself, I wish that that wasn't the actual situation that I had to face and have to get accused of, because there's no way, now, before, in the past, would I ever do something like that and intentionally take a prohibited substance in sport,
right.
let alone outside of sport. But the lessons that I learned and the person that I became and my value for swimming and the abilities that I have in the pool, are second to none now. When I race, it's like I've got nothing to lose. You know, I've had that time away from the sport, and so my appreciation for the things that I achieve in the pool, you know, when it's training, when it's things with Dean, when it's, you know, racing, I am overwhelmed with emotion a lot of the time because I'm so proud of myself and so proud of what I've actually been able to achieve. And again, in such a short period of time of my return, I just think that there's nothing that can really stop me now.
The other thing that I was super impressed with you is something that Kate Campbell said, actually, in terms of like when she was commenting on the story itself, and she kind of had to come out and defend you as a friend, which was great, I thought. But she basically said that, you know, you have this real thick skin, and that you were able to take in you know, you were able to, like, at least see the negativity but not absorb it. Like, a lot of people would kind of let it sit in them and kill them in a way, right? But you seem to not let it do that to you.
Sorry, stop it.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, for Kate to come out and actually defend me and actually do what she did made me quite emotional when I actually saw that coming out, because I had no idea that she had done that. So it was completely, you know, something that she felt was right for her to do, and Bronte also did the same thing. So for them to come out and support me publicly was, you know, such bravery and such courage. But from me personally, it was just such a moment of support and value in the swimming community and as a friend for them. But yeah, it was one of those things that I had, especially at the beginning, so much negativity, so much hate, so many people telling me that I'm, you know, I should be ashamed to be an Australian. I'm useless. I had people telling me to kill myself. So to get those kind of messages and have never dealt with that negativity before, I had a lot of people supporting me to make sure I didn't absorb that information. I had a lot of people, you know, doing a lot of that mental teaching to make sure that, you know, I know who I am, I know my values, I know what I represent. What people who don't know me say is irrelevant, because they don't actually know me. Until you've had a conversation with me and gotten to know me and gotten to know what I stand for, then I don't believe that you have the right to tell me who I am and what I am. So I think that was definitely something I took on board. And if anyone who I actually personally knew and who actually had met me before had said something, I can tell you now that hurt. But I didn't actually come across that frequently. And I ensured that I never let that get to me. And I ensured that I set my sights on getting through that whole process and getting at the other end, to be honest, alive.
What about the alone times? Like, it's great when you've got people around you, and you can run into those conversations, and people can put their arm around you, things like that. But then you've got your alone time, whether it just be time where you close the door of your bedroom and you go to sleep, but, you know, those hours there, like, you've still got those thoughts in your head. So what's the self-talk during this time? Did it fluctuate with you?
Oh, it definitely fluctuated. It was, I think the best way I've explained it to anyone in relation to what I went through, I had 2 years of uncertainty, 2 years of not being able to plan my future or know my future. So it's not even like I could start planning, you know, my life outside of swimming, because I didn't know if I would have a life outside of swimming yet, because I was hoping to go back.
Yeah, I think Dean called it a death sentence.
It was, yeah. It was very much one of those moments where I felt very trapped. I felt like nobody knew how I felt. And I can say I isolated myself. I stopped going out with friends. I stopped going to my partner's hockey because people would constantly ask me questions about my situation. I felt like I lost a bit of my personal identity during that phase, because no one actually asked about me. They always wanted to know about the case. It was always, what's happening with the case? What's happening here? Like, it was never, hey, Shayna, how are you going? Like, what's been happening? So my life was completely consumed. And so I started isolating myself and actually giving myself more alone time, which became quite a negative factor for me personally. I struggled a lot with I actually got professional help, and they diagnosed it as reactive depression. I would constantly try and find the positivity, because that's just who I am. And then something would knock me down again. I would be back to square one and trying to dig myself out of a hole. So look, to me, getting off a couch was a success each day. If I got up to feed my dogs and take them for a walk, I was being resilient. If I mow the lawn, or if I, you know, went to the gym, those things to me were just a slight, like for me, was just showing a glimpse of resilience. You know, to other people that might be an everyday task, but to me it was just a start. And so that self-talk had to basically be trying to, I guess in a way, win. It was a game of winning, you know, and I'm someone who loves to win. I'm not someone who likes to lose. So in the end, the game was me proving my innocence and me standing up for my reputation. I wasn't going to let these corporate bodies, WADA and Sports Integrity Australia, dictate who I am as an athlete. I'm not a drug cheat. I never took drugs that actually, you know, intentionally in any way. So they don't have the right to take away my career for 4 years. And I was never going to stop that fight. Yes, there were days that I wanted to throw in the towel and give it all up because I felt like I was constantly being kicked down. But that's where those days I had people around me to remind me that I'm not a person that gives up. So why start now?
Right. It's very clear studying the case that there was some type of contamination with some supplementation of some sort, right? Like, and when I talk about contamination, we're talking about, like, you know, a speck of contamination in a supplement. But what's your thoughts on supplementation now? How do you feel about it?
Look, so in the end, we were able to narrow it down to more of an environmental contamination, not actually a supplement contamination. So that was that was the final explanation because of where I was and the timing of everything. So
how would that have happened? Like, what how would that take place?
So say, like, potentially in a gym, other people using equipment and not actually wiping it down. So this was pre-COVID. Now after COVID, everyone's very clean and likes to make sure they clean up after themselves, which is great.
That's scary.
But unfortunately, we were using a public gym. Literally, like the day I was tested, I was using a public gym just before going and doing that test. So there was high, like, it was, that's why it was put on the probability scale, and they were able to lean it towards there was most likely a environmental contamination that actually made that result happen. Whether it went through my body and actually came out that way, or whether it was on my hands as I was actually giving the sample. So that was actually a tough pill to swallow because it was logically clear that I didn't do this intentionally. And that was very frustrating because, you know, they had the reports that said it would have come into contact with me within 2 days prior to the test. And it also said that it would have been gone the next day. So nowhere in there was I using it to a benefit of, you know, my performance. Nowhere in there was I competing. Nowhere in there would have had a positive effect on my body in any way. And again, that was in the report as well. So I think the state was that it was pharmaceutically irrelevant. So it had no effect on my body at all. And to kind of hear those words during my court process was one of those moments of, like, are you serious? Like, everything I'm going through now was because of, you know, this substance being in my body, and it wasn't even something that actually was logic. Like, there was no logic behind it.
I don't know. I think that's even worse though. Like, if it's a contamination through a supplementation of some sort, it's like, all right, I'm just not going to take supplements. But, like, you got to go to the gym.
Definitely, yes.
You got to go lift some weights.
Yeah, so it was actually a scary moment last year. We actually went back to that Cairns gym, and Dean could see my anxiety rising prior to actually going on this trip, and I was very open with him about how nervous I was, and how fearful I was of things repeating themselves. I didn't want to ever go back again. But, you know, he was with me every step of the way. We got there on a Wednesday, and we usually have Wednesday afternoon off. So Dean actually said, look, come with me to the pool by yourself. Let's go through the moments together, and let's do a session together by ourselves so that you can just feel what you have to feel, and not feel any pressure on any way. So look, for him to do those kind of things is why he's, you know, one of the most amazing coaches I've ever met.
Do you wear rubber gloves now?
Look, I actually did during that time, but again, I can't live my life in fear, you know. If it honestly happens to me again, then my goodness, I'm one of the most unluckiest people in sport. Like, when I broke my hand, I thought what else can happen to me? Like, seriously, surely I'm about to win the lottery. But, yeah.
Well, have they changed has things changed at least? Like, has it gone from like a speck of something can, destroy your career for 4 years? Has it changed since you've gone through this process?
I don't believe the actual processing has changed, but again, with the Peter Bowl situation coming out, I do think there is now more of a public and athlete push for them to make a change. I think there's a lot of people now.
Public, yours wasn't public enough?
Oh, yeah. Well, look, I think, again, that starts it, but it can't just be me alone. Unfortunately, it does take more than one situation where they're showing that this is not a fair process. And, this recent situation has just proven it again, that the process it needs an update.
For sure.
Based on that Australian story you mentioned, the expert had explained that they're now testing to the fact that they could find one sugar cube in 50 meter swimming pools.
Which doesn't make sense, right? Like we all know caffeine. I don't know why my microphone's messing up again. We all know caffeine is a stimulant, right? And so they give you this allowed amount of caffeine because they're like, well, everyone drinks coffee. It's a stimulant. Yeah. It's gonna positively affect your performance. So people drink coffee, but then they give you this allowance of like, okay, you can take 24 cups of coffee, which is a ton of caffeine, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, why is it that just a speck where you could touch something and then, wipe some sweat off your face and then all of a sudden you're contaminated? Why is it that's the case? It seems like it really needs an upheaval, doesn't it?
It definitely does. And look, I do understand from a lot of the research that I saw and got from the whole process. There is cases of microdoping, which is taking fine amounts over a long period of time. I had never heard of it before, and that was actually something that they tried to accuse me of. But in the end, it is one of those cases of there needs to be some sort of, if they're going to test that finally, whether it be like a 3-strike rule of if you come up positive with a minute amount, they test you frequently, and it could be daily. They're allowed to do whatever they want. In the end, we're part of their process. We put our whereabouts every single day. We have a 60-minute time slot that they can come and test us whenever they want. We don't have any clue what days they're going to show up. So if someone did, have a minute amount show up, why wouldn't you just start regularly testing them? And then if you start seeing more signs of that, then that's when you have more evidence to actually go after them in the sense of they are doping.
Right.
But I don't think having that one-off case in my situation where it's a minute amount that had no effect on my body, that's a case that you can drag an athlete out of the water for 2 years and drag me through all that scrutiny, the financial stresses. I lost over $180,000. That was my life savings. And now I can't just magically click my fingers and get that back.
That's what I was going to say. A lot of people understand, naturally, okay, yeah, you fought for yourself, but you actually went in, and I don't think people understand the depths of the fight that you went into is you had to basically individually take everything around you and test it individually, which costs thousands of dollars for each individual sample to be tested, right?
Yeah. So it was it was because we started finding more information about this substance, which I had never heard of. Again, apparently it was a black market drug, so it's not meant to be in Australia at all. So having no research on this new substance because it's new, and also then knowing that it's not actually meant to be found in Australia was one of those things that you think, well, where am I meant to look?
Oh, it was definitely at the local gym then, that's for sure.
Well, that's the thing. There was so much research around the fact that potentially cancer patients use it because it is something that helps with recovery. It's obviously, in a horrible way to say, it's like marijuana. It's illegal, but people still have it.
Right.
So that was really scary to even, I would be potentially out and about one day and I'd have a person be like, oh, my husband takes that drug that you were tested positive to. And I just think, oh, fantastic. Let's stop throwing this drug around because it's obviously very easy to find in an athlete. So, it was one of the toughest things I've ever faced. And as you said, it wasn't just the fight itself. It was the emotional, physical, financial, that whole every aspect I kind of faced in a 2-year period, even when it comes to like, you know, my own personal image of, you know, body comp, those things that I faced, and watching myself change in that way, and not having direction in life. It's a very scary place to be as a human being.
Do you think you'll get to the point before your athletic career ends where you say, I'm done talking about that? Like I'm over it. Like I want to talk about my athletic career now. Like, do you think you'll get to that point?
It'll always be part of my story. And I think
Yeah.
everyone's always going to want to, you know, reflect on it. I do think it'll get to a point where no one will give a shit what actually happened during that moment, but they'll actually be like, look how far you came. And for me, it will always be, look how far I've come, and look what I've actually faced during my career, and continue to progress and show resilience and overcome adversity. You know, not just in that case, but then, you know, coming back and going to the World Championships to break my hand. It never seems to make it. I never make it easy, apparently. Just ask Dean. So, you know, one day it'll be a great book, is all I'm saying.
It will be a great book. It'll be a great movie, maybe. You know, we can turn the book into a movie.
Documentary, here we come.
Who would you want to play you in a movie?
Oh, look, to be honest, I'm a massive fan of Blake Lively, and if she can represent me, my goodness, I'd love that.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Great boost to my confidence.
Yeah, that would be a good one. Good pick there. We've mentioned Dean's name, Dean Boxall, a couple of times, and look, I've got a fairly vast American audience, and the only thing they really know about Dean is he's the guy at the Olympics who was, you know, thrusting,
shaking the railing, and
shaking the railing, and acting like a clown in their eyes, right? Like, because they only saw a split second of it. But tell us about Dean too. Who is Dean?
Oh, Dean is the most amazing man you'll probably ever meet. Other than my partner, I have to throw that one in there. No, Dean's family to me. Again, after everything that I faced, he was there every step of the way by my side. You know, he couldn't be there as a coach, but he was there as a support network and always there for me. Like, I remember calling him at 2 a.m. in the morning, just bawling my eyes out, telling him I couldn't do it anymore. And, you know, he was that guy that knew exactly how I work and knew exactly what would get me going again. So you know, he thrives off that kind of thing. I think he's the one person I've met that has so many athletes with so many different, you know, talents and different strokes and different abilities and different lengths. And yet he knows how to get the best out of every single one of them individually, but actually make them work as a team. You know, he doesn't just throw us all in the deep end and expect us all to do the exact same thing the exact same way. He knows how we think and actually takes the time to work out, you know, what makes us work. You know, what works for Arnie or Ariane Titmus does not work for me. We're two different people in the way we mentally take on things, and he makes that work, which I think is very rare for a coach to be able to do. And not only that, his passion to see us succeed is phenomenal. Like, anyone who saw that railing situation was him not even knowing he's on camera. That was just pure joy for the fact that his athlete and someone he's, you know, seen grow up with this dream has just achieved that dream. You know, that dream doesn't just come for her. That dream also becomes his dream. He puts so much work into making sure, you know, she's getting the best out of every day, and how he can help her get the best out of every day. He's doing that, you know, whether it's, you know, looking at different people's times or working out where she needs to be each day or what she needs to do. He is that guy who is always picking you up whenever you need it, which is, you know, no one can ask for anything more.
I've known Dean for many years. So the part of this questioning is not coming necessarily from me, because I already know the answers to some of these things. I know this stuff, so I'm dragging it out of you. But I will say this, like, I do believe that people would suggest that Dean's not for everybody, right? Like, everything you just described there was like, oh, I want to be coached by that guy. Like, I want that guy, you know. But the reality is, Dean's not for everybody, right? Because he does demand excellence, and that's really difficult for some people, isn't it?
Yeah. So he I guess the way him and I've always talked about it and the way I've always viewed it is he is willing to give you 100% if you are willing to give him 100%. If you start lacking, if you start dropping, if he starts seeing you not commit to the dream that you claim that you want, why should he waste his time on making that a reality if you're not actually going to commit to that dream? So you have to be the one who steers the boat and steers the ship, and he's just the one who's helping with the sails, I guess. He is a very I would say he's tough. He is a tough person. And he also requires a lot of trust. You know, if you're someone who doesn't trust people and doesn't open up to your coach well and actually allows him into your life, you're not going to always get the best out of him. I trust Dean with everything. I tell him absolutely everything. Probably things I probably shouldn't tell him because it might be more private things in my life, but he knows it because then that means he can get the best out of me each day.
Is that what he's looking for? I guess he's a master coach. Like he's on a different level. So some people would be listening to this and think to themselves, well, that's overbearing, or that's this and that. What Dean's looking for is those parts in your life where he can either manipulate it so that he can still manage to squeeze every ounce of possibility out of you, right? So it's like you're telling him these things and he's like, okay, now I've got that information to say, to pick her up in this instance, or press on her in this instance, or whatever it is. He's looking for that emotional connection to say, this is where she needs me the most. And it's not just always like he doesn't understand me, because you get that a lot with miscommunication, right?
Yeah, so for him, it is all about communication. So for an example, my partner recently made the Australian hockey team, and he then had to move to Perth to be part of that program. So we've been together for 7 years, lived together for 5. So I've always had him by my side for most things in my career. And so this person who I've, been very reliant on and very close with for my emotional side of things was gone. And so Dean needed to work out how to, it's so close to Paris. We've got Paris trials, Olympic trials next year. He needs to be able to ensure that he can manage my emotions and manage, potentially I'm not always going to be emotionally in tune with things and emotionally involved. But if he sees that, he can then pull me aside and have that conversation and be like, look, do you need to talk about anything? And if I'm quite emotional, upset, he actually knows how to get the best out of me in that session. It's kind of crazy. I've been bawling my eyes out to him before in a room, and in the end, I do one of the best sessions I've ever done. And that's him listening to me and him understanding how I feel, and him also acknowledging that that's normal and that there's nothing he can do to change that. But what he can do is get the best out of me in that session and push me to make that Olympic team with my partner. And that's the goal. And he can set that goal then for me.
He seems to be at an elite level of coaching where he wants his athletes to be the best in the world, right? And that's a rarity. So, but what do you think it is about Dean that makes him want that? Like, why is there something that he feels like he's missed out on in his life that he wants that the best for you?
Yeah, so not many people know, but Dean actually was a swimmer growing up, and he was a talented swimmer.
We raced against each other.
Yeah, well, there you go. So he was actually, in the Queensland Academy of Sports. So he was quite talented. I believe Michael Bowl actually coached him for a stage there, and he threw in the towel. He gave it up, and he definitely has said to me before that he's regretted that decision, because he actually doesn't know what he was capable of, and he'll never now know what he's capable of. He'll always brag now that he could probably beat me in a 50 freestyle, but let's be honest, he couldn't.
Not anymore. No, those days are over.
We can always try that one day, but he doesn't want us to have those regrets. He wants to make sure that if we decide to walk away from the sport one day, that we've done absolutely everything in our power to achieve that dream of whether it's an Olympic gold medal, making the team, or just actually making a junior team. It depends on the athlete and depends on what their goals are. Some people just want to enjoy swimming, and he's happy to make that happen. And, for me, when I came back, I set the goals that I wanted with him, and he was ready to go, and he had that fire in his belly, and we're on the road. So it's very exciting.
One of the things I know about him for sure is he's very protective of his program, especially in the lead up to an Olympics, right? Like we're 1 year out of the Olympics. So out of
Yeah.
respect for him, I want my audience to know I'm not going to dig into his program with
Yeah.
you. I don't
Yeah.
want to know that stuff. That's between you and him in terms of that. The only thing I really want to know is why are the Australian female sprinters so dominant right now? Like why there's like 10 of you that can go 52 in the 100, it seems like.
Yeah, look, it's super exciting, and it is one of those things that it's the hardest event to be part of at this current stage. In general, whether it's male or female, it's the 100 freestyle is the hardest event to be successful in at the moment because there is such a depth in that event. And I do believe it comes down to the fact that we have each other to compete against. I think one person sets the bar, the others are trying to catch that and then replicate that, and then once someone gets there, it's just a constant game of I guess cat and mouse. And when you've got something to strive for, you've got something to work harder for. If you say if I was winning 100 free by 2 body lengths, I potentially mentally you'd already kind of switch off because you've got it in the bag. It's one of those things that you feel like you don't need to keep pushing. You don't need to push harder. You don't need to change your times in training because you're already the best. Whereas you don't know who the best is. They might win one day and then the next day it's somebody else. So right. I think that's the most exciting part about the 100 free is that it's anyone's game. And it's really exciting for the 100 freestyle girls and especially for that relay.
You have one of the best training partners in the world right now with Molly O'Callaghan, right? Like, do you two go up against each other every single workout, or does he manipulate it so you only really get looks against each other a couple of times a week or something?
That's all hush hush. Dean would not want me commenting on that one.
Yeah.
I definitely no. It definitely is one of those things that. It's a positive for us. We get to push each other and constantly expect the best from each other. And Dean always says if he could have it anyway, he'd want us to tie. And I guess at the recent nationals, we were pretty bloody close with 0.01.
Yeah.
But yeah, for us, you get to compete against the person that, for me, I'm a front end swimmer and she's a back end swimmer. So put us together and you've got the best competition.
Yeah. Let me ask you this then. Are we going to see a female swim 50 seconds in the 100 freestyle within the next 18 months, you think?
Oh, let's hope so. I definitely think it's not something to rule out. I think that our women's freestyle group, that you should never put a boundary on it. I think that we're always striving to be better and always striving. And I guess that world record is something that, I hope all of us are striving for because it's there to be broken.
Are you looking at it from your respects in terms of trying to find more speed or trying to find more endurance at the back end?
That's hush hush. I know I'm making that difficult, but I definitely want to keep my cards close. As you said,
I like that. No, I actually like that answer.
Yeah, it's definitely as you said, we're all competitors. We might all love each other to bits on pool deck and race together in that relay, but in the end, they're still my competitors, and I'm still trying to be the best in the pool. So I'm keeping my cards close, and I will not be giving that away until race day.
You're definitely a stronger person from what you went through. Are you a better athlete, or did you miss some time and you feel like that you're just making up for what you missed, but like that period of time that you missed, did that hurt you athletically?
No, I think in the end, I am stronger, fitter, mentally stronger, physically fitter. I think I'm a much better athlete all round because, nothing can break me. Honestly, there's nothing that I can't stand behind those blocks. I fought to be there. As much respect as I have for every single person that stands behind those blocks, I don't know anyone else who had to actually fight for their position there. And for me, I stand behind those blocks and I can have my head held high that I fought. I continued to strive, and I have every right to be standing behind those blocks because in the end, whether you agree with me or not, in the end, I did 2 years time. I did a 2-year sentence. So, there is no one who ever, there is no one who could say anything about me being behind those blocks. And in the end, it's my lane, and I don't have to share it with anyone.
Who's the last Aussie female to win the 100 at the Olympics? Is it Jodie Henry?
The last Australian to win at the Olympics.
Yeah, in the 100.
Em McKeon.
Oh, Em McKeon won the 100 free at the Olympics?
Yeah.
Did she really?
Definitely think she did. Yeah. Oh my God, at the recent Olympics 2021, Tokyo Olympics.
Yes. She won the 100 free, Em McKeon?
Yes.
Really?
You might want to check that, but I definitely believe she did. If she,
hang on a second. Emma McKeon won the 100 free in Tokyo?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, she's Olympic champion.
Really? Oh, so what hasn't she done? She just hasn't broken the world record. So
yes. Let's not encourage that one.
Why am I like losing my mind here? Like, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, by the way. It's actually 1:30 in the morning.
Stop.
So
oh no. I definitely think, again, unfortunately, because of COVID and the Olympics not having, the atmosphere, and it was a 2021 Olympics, so it was moved to a year later. I do think, unfortunately, there wasn't as much public hype about it. And there was always there was Australians left, right, and center doing amazing things. So I think it was hard to keep up with how many. Yeah, I definitely thought
she did win the 100 freestyle in Tokyo.
Yeah, yes, she did.
Listen, I'm forgiven. It's 1:30 in the morning, everybody. You just back off, okay?
No,
all right.
That was funny though.
Yeah, she did. She did win. Did she win? Did she win the 50 and the 100?
I believe so. Yes.
It says it here that she won the 50 and the 100.
Yeah.
Why am I blank?
She was also part of the world record relay.
Wow. Oh, she cleaned house.
Yeah, she did amazing.
Oh, wow. 5 golds. Oh, my God. Okay. Jeez. Well, there you go.
Yes.
Well, that is going to be a tough team to make. you got some girls that can swim.
Well, look, I definitely believe that if you are number 1 in Australia, I believe you are number 1 in the world.
Oh, for sure. That
is my opinion on that.
I think if you're number 3 in Australia, you're number 3 in the world.
And look, that's the toughest pill to swallow. If you are number 3 in Australia, you don't get that individual spot at the Olympics. No matter what, even if you're not number 3 in the world, you won't get that bronze medal at the Olympics. So it is one of those things that you have to be 1 and 2 in Australia.
Yeah, well, you're going to have a deadly relay team, that's for sure. Which will be nice,
It will be.
Yeah. You must be excited about the fact of potentially swimming at an Olympics, right?
Yeah, it's something that I definitely think about, and I get kind of goosebumps, and I get that adrenaline pump when I actually think about it. It might be about, I think, maybe 15 months away now. And it's so exciting, and it's going to go so quick. You think this year's already going so quickly, and in a blink of an eye, world championships are going to be done. It's going to be Olympic prep straight up. So, it's really exciting to think that this could be potentially the Olympics that I didn't get to go to in 2021. And I guess I'll never know if I was going to make that team, but I'm really excited to give it my best shot and ensure that I get a spot in that team. Do
you swim any other strokes, or is it just freestyle for you?
Look, I can swim them, whether it's good or bad, I don't know. I can do backstroke at an okay level, but okay. I guess when you're a freestyler, because if you are actually trying to be successful in the 50, 100 and 200 like I am, you could be swimming every single day at a Olympics or a World Championships, because you include relays. There's now the mixed relay, the medley mixed relay, medley relay, freestyle relay, and then the 2x4 relay. So there's, I think, about 5 relays you can make being a freestyler, plus then the individual events of heat semifinals. So it's a large program for a freestyler if you are actually there for those 3 sprint events.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Did you ever have any thoughts or ambitions to come to America and swim at all?
Look, I actually had that thought during my process. I thought, look, maybe America's supporting me more than Australia is. I should just go over there and represent America.
Yeah.
Because it was, you know, when Travis Tiger was quite supportive and very understanding of what I was going through, I was definitely thinking about it, but then I realized I have to get citizenship for actually doing all that. So I did think about it. I won't say no to that. I won't lie. It was definitely a thought that potentially America would appreciate me more. But now that I'm back, obviously back with Dean, back on the Australian team and back doing what I love, you know, I wouldn't change it for the world.
What about sponsors? What about people that are supporting you? Do you have a couple?
I have amazing sponsors. So I had, you know, I actually had Motorama Jeep Springwood come on board when I was going through my process, and I couldn't thank them enough for the fact that that actually allowed me to sell my car at the time and use all that money towards my case, and I get to drive my dream car in the Jeep Wrangler. So I'm not complaining.
Nice.
And I during that time, Denise also has been a massive contributor, a massive support to me. So I was with them prior to actually, you know, going through that stage. And I actually told them before it became public, because of that, you know, respect for them and ensuring that they knew exactly what was happening. And they always checked in on me and made sure I was okay. Unfortunately, they couldn't be physically involved because of the rules I was under. But as soon as I was back swimming, they were there supporting me the whole way and ensuring that I could do what I love day in and day out. So I couldn't, you know, they're one of the people that, you know, helped me come back. And awesome. I have LSKD. If anyone follows me on Instagram, you'll know that one because I'm always wearing their gear. Currently wearing it right now.
There we go. Boom.
Always wearing it. So yeah, they're my clothing, you know, gym wear, streetwear. Absolutely love their stuff and absolutely love the community that they built. They're actually over in America as well now, which is amazing. So I believe they've got a store in California, which is exciting.
Nice.
And they're continuing to expand, and for me to be part of their community, they've always been very open about the fact that, you know, they're not here to expect results. They're here to support me to those results. So
that's great.
Again, going through everything that I've been through and coming out the other end, I'm really strict on who becomes, I guess, Team Jack, because it was a learning curve of who actually would stand by me and you know, support me. And so everyone I've spoken to and anyone, you know, coming on board in the future, it's always about supporting me as a human and as an athlete with a dream, and anything that comes with that. You know, there's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days, and you're going to have to accept that that's part of being an athlete. So I couldn't thank the people that are involved in that and actually ensuring that I can do what I love day in and day out. So
that's awesome.
It's spectacular, and it's I'm very blessed to have you know, companies like that supporting me and believing in me and believing in me going through to Paris. So I'm very lucky.
Yeah, good for you. You seem to do a really good job with your own image and your own brand, and that's cool. It's something that it's something that everybody can learn from you. Where can people find you on social media?
So I am Shayna SHAYNA _Jack JACK. So I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook page. So you can follow my journey, you know, through to Paris, and I do post a lot about my own career. I also post a lot about my dogs and my birds. So if you're an animal lover, you'll see lots of that as well.
Well, there's a lot of fight in you there, and I think you're a real role model. And I'm hoping that whatever the sum was, let's say it was $180,000 that you lost in this, I hope you make that back tenfold. It's great that those companies are supporting you, but I want you go and make $1 million next year. That'd be great. All right.
Oh, look, I wouldn't be complaining, but you know, for me, again, money is great, but in the end, it is all I want to do is be able to do what I do and you know, commit to that. In the past, when I first came back, I did have to work at the same time, and I'm sure lots of athletes have to do that, which is, you know, we're very lucky as swimmers to have support from potential sponsors or from the government that actually allows us to commit to our sport. And I'm very grateful that I get to do that day in and day out and don't have to have a job anymore. So if I can just keep doing that and living my life with a smile on my face, I'll be pretty happy.
Do you think you have real dreams of LA in 28?
I haven't ruled it out. I think for me, getting through Paris is, you know, where my mind is, because I guess I've learned not to plan too far in the future anymore, because things can change. You don't know what's going to happen. So for me, my eyes are on Paris, and then I will reassess after Paris and see where I see myself going. But it gives me a lot of confidence, you know, seeing Emma and Kate and Bronte and those girls who are, you know, more towards their 30s still going. So that gives me that confidence that, you know what, I might not be done after Paris, and I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Awesome. Great story. Now you're on the phone, aren't you? You're on your phone recording this?
I'm on my iPad.
Oh, okay. Are you able to pick it up and show us the bird? Are we able to see the bird?
Oh, yeah, sure. This is Phoenix.
Show us Phoenix.
So this is Phoenix.
How cool.
He just pooped. So he talks. He says, "Where's Shayna and what you doing?" But I can guarantee he won't now because he's on camera.
Now, what kind of bird is it?
So he's a galah. So they're native to Australia. But he is very, very intelligent and very, very needy, aren't you, Boo? And yes, he's in love with his mum and constantly wants to be around. So
he just flies around. He doesn't fly around the house, no?
He sometimes can fly. He just kind of falls to the ground, but he usually just sits on top of his cage and does his own thing. And sometimes he'll come and join me down on the couch. But that's
cool.
He's pretty cool. He's going on the back of my chair now.
That's awesome.
Hey, Boo. But yes, he's a very good boy. Hey,
yeah, he's a star. Look at him. Loves it. Loves the camera.
He actually does. He always tries to like walk towards the camera.
Well, that was the noise in the background. If anyone was wondering what the noise was.
Yeah, sorry guys. It would have been loud as well because when he does that in my ear, it's very loud. But...
No, it's all good. Well, listen, I appreciate this, and thank you for saying no to the questions that were prying. But
sorry.
No, it was good. It was good. But no, I really appreciate you doing this. It's very nice to meet you. I'm glad we got it done. And
so good to meet you.
And how long until the trials now?
So it's 7 weeks as of Wednesday, I believe, is when we start. So
and they're in Melbourne?
Yes, they're in Melbourne. So we actually head to Cairns in 2 weeks for a training camp, and that'll just be, you know, hard work, head down, focus on training, and we'll then head to Melbourne and see what happens.
Awesome. Well, good luck. We'll be watching, we'll be cheering, and say hi to Dean for me, all right?
I will. Thank you so much for the chat.
All right. Thanks, Shayna. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.